Good morning, everyone. I'm going to call this meeting to order. Welcome to our Thursday, October 7th Reparations Committee meeting. My name is Alden Braithwaite. We do have a quorum. Our first item is public comment. Kimberly, do we have anyone signed up for public comment?
I didn't see any, but if someone has any, I don't see any public comment. Do you? No.
Was there anyone here this morning that wanted to speak? All right, seeing none, we'll move forward. Next, item 3 is our approval of the minutes. Is there a motion to approve the September 2nd meeting minutes?
Move approval. Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Did everyone have an opportunity to read through, make sure no questions or comments? All right, perfect. Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the September 2nd meeting minutes, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, no, it's perfect. All right, our first item for discussion is the reparations financial donations report. Kimberly, you just want to go ahead and walk us through real high level and give us the number, and then we'll accept and put on file.
Good morning, members of the Reparations Committee. So as of October, the city has received $26,230 in donations to the Reparations Fund. And this is an increase of $100 from September.
I had a question about the donations.
Yes.
Just wondering how they were being managed in terms of recognition and thanks.
Great question. Tashik?
So we're in the process of working on a thank you letter. Yes. Committee member Ruth Simmons had made the recommendation last time for staff to develop a recommendation, a thank you letter to go out to the donors.
So we have not sent any yet?
No, correct.
Are you working, who's working directly on that?
I'm working on it.
All right, can we?
Sorry. It's going to need the signature of the chair. So typically in the past, we would have Chairwoman Simmons. She would sign a thank you letter, or you would send out a thank you letter on behalf of the committee. Is that correct?
Well, I mean, in my role, I sent out a thank you letter. I think the committee should send out, and that was my recommendation before, that the committee should send out not only a thank you, but updates and information on how to stay updated as well, like automatically be put on the list, the reparation listserv, and so on. So I'll work directly with Tashik to make sure that gets done. I volunteered to do it last time.
So can we set a timeline? I mean, we can bang out a simple letter pretty quick.
Yeah.
And it's been a while since I made a donation, but do we capture, I can't remember if capturing their email is a part of it?
Not all send it to the online. A number of them are sending it via a physical check. So it doesn't always have their contact information associated with it. But for those that do, with regards to email, we can
add them to the distribution list. Perfect.
I'll send a draft to you, Tashik, for consideration in the next week.
Is the volume of correspondence so great that we need to send out, that we need to get some other committee members on?
No.
Yeah.
So out of...
So, and then I just have one more question about the donation. So this, gives us the amounts that have been donated. Do we have an idea of how many people, entities have donated?
I can provide that at the next committee meeting.
Okay.
That's helpful information. I think that it's important information to know who and how many are donating to the fund.
All right. So letters next week. Adding, just want to make sure for the online donation. For some reason, I can't get online. I don't know if anyone else is.
And maybe we can also announce how people can still donate.
Exactly. So we send out normally, there's a newsletter that goes out. We can add that donation link. So Tashik, can we make sure the next correspondence adding the donation link? What else? Number of donations. All right, are there any other comments or suggestions under this item?
And I apologize, you may have covered this question already. I apologize for being tardy.
That's right.
Is there, have we considered some measure to sort of refresh our outreach to the community for donations?
Yeah, that's.
Because the program has gotten a lot of coverage,
Mhm.
and I'm sure people have reached out to get, to get that information. But I wonder if we could think of some, if some measures have been taken to think of some groups who may not have gotten the information, may not have gotten sort of a detailed outreach, who might then consider, some different organizations, for example, who might then consider donations. Have we sort of considered ways to refresh?
I would recommend that we have a subcommittee that work on contributions and educating the community on why to contribute and who ideally might be best suited to contribute to a reparation fund. So that would be my recommendation. So it should be really thoughtful, and there needs to be some education involved, and so whomever might be interested in being on a committee like that for bringing awareness to contributions and how to raise that fund.
So let's move forward with the thought. It's simple. Who's interested?
I'm interested.
Yeah, and I'm interested also.
Okay.
So we can work together, Claire, with Kimberly and Tashik,
Okay.
There's some community members also that
that are interested.
So I
That'd be great.
think committee member Claire and Bonnie, you can be they could be reached at their email addresses.
Yes.
Yeah, they raised their hands.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And Donna?
Okay, wonderful, wonderful.
So in that case, what we'll do is call it a working group and not a subcommittee?
Yeah, so we don't have to worry about quorum or,
Sure.
Yep.
Great.
So if you want to.
There were 3 hands I saw.
Tashik, before everyone leaves, just so we keep things going, suggest setting a date. One of the options are making sure to add the link with the newsletter that goes out. And then also, for members of the committee, and it's not an agenda item, but we also have a community effort that's going, and there's a fund also at the Evanston Community Foundation. So know that there are 2 parallel funds that are moving forward to move this effort. Perfect. Any other items for discussion or consideration under the financial donation fund?
Can I just get a clarification?
Sure.
About the other fund?
Yep.
So, in moving forward with informational group and so forth about donations, is that something that the RASC reaches out to independently of us? Is it appropriate for us to inform people who are interested about both, or I just need some clarification.
Sure.
On
So
the interplay of those 2 groups.
So the last time I spoke with Dr. Neighbors, that group is still in formation. I can't recall the last time they met. I don't have a date.
We had a meeting less than a month ago.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it will be that group that will oversee that fund. And so as we are moving towards this first initiative, that group is also moving forward. I don't want to comment too much on that because it's not on the agenda.
Yes.
But in a future agenda meeting, we'll ask them to come. You're a part of it. I think you're also meeting with them, that will have a full presentation.
Thank you.
No, thank you for the question. All right. Back to the agenda item number 2, the financial donation report. Are there any other comments or considerations for the committee? All right. Seeing none. Is there a motion to accept and place the report on file?
Move approval?
I second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. All those in favor of putting this, accepting and putting this on file, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, moves forward. Thank you. Item number 3. We have staff's going to provide an update on the application submissions, ongoing outreach. The committee discusses the next steps for creating a selection process for the 16 qualified candidates. This is for discussion.
Yes, good morning, committee and members of the community. Kimberly Richardson, Deputy City Manager. So I am proud to say that we are up to 146 as of this morning of applicants who've submitted. I have not been able to do the breakdown due to just timing of my arrival today, but as of last Thursday, we had at least 29 of that 107 that submitted by September 30th be considered as ancestors. And so what we are seeing in that subgroup is that they are interested primarily in home improvement and mortgage assistance. Maybe a couple we are seeing that has selected as an interest for home improvement, or excuse me, new home ownership. The largest applicant pool, of course, continue to be the direct descendant. And looking at today's data without having it in front of me, it seems to continue to trend that way. We're still getting more applicants who are interested under the direct descendant category. And then we had one individual that selected none of the categories. However, we haven't investigated the applications to be able to show if it was just by error. So right now we're in the process of just putting the data together, and then we'll start beginning the verification process in the next week now that things have kind of settled down. So that way we'll know how many individuals actually have moved on to be considered for an applicant as a successful application. For those that we have gone through, so we've had a number of individuals reach out to us, and we've had the office hours that have been very successful, and I really appreciate the library for their support with staffing that. What we've come to realize is that more people want to provide more documentation than they need. And so it's funny when I'm having conversations like, oh, you don't need that, that's fine. They're like, well, I'm just going to bring it just in case. Because I guess there was a different program that had a different process. And so I just want to assure the committee that for the most part, every document that we see something quickly as we're perusing the information that doesn't stick out as something that we should look at too. We have reached out directly to those individuals. Even though we haven't technically verified it, you can tell when like something's missing. And so we've reached out to those individuals and followed up with an email or a phone call so that they can provide us with that documentation. And I would say the majority have followed through and did that. So we are so far seem to be very successful. Any changes that we've had to make, we've done so as a to ensure that the application submittal level process is as complete as possible. So again, I just want to remind you that we have the office hours on Mondays and Wednesdays. Right now they're from 10 a.m. to 3 on Mondays and 12 to 5 p.m. on Wednesdays. And what's nice about the partnership with the library is because of the information that's at the library. If someone does come to those office hours and they do need some additional support because they're not able to locate it directly, we have been able to reach out to the library directly at the office hours, and they are able to locate any information if they're able to find it, and we then are able to complete the application on site. So individuals don't have to come back or go over to the main library to access those documents. So we seem to have a good rhythm. And I think that we continue with the successful process as we are nearing the halfway point. That's it. End of my report.
Peter?
Thank you. Yes.
I just want to applaud Kimberly, Tashik, and the city of Evanston for the job that they have done in promoting the program. Yes. And I think the number of applications is a direct result of how well the information has been disseminated throughout the community.
Yes.
And the fact that there is so much assistance. I mean, I have heard from citizens who have told me how helpful it's been and how quickly it's gone. And I know that the feedback from the community sessions was very, very positive. So I
Yes.
just want to put that on record that, you know, you guys have done an excellent job.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So I have two questions. First of all, I want to echo that. I think it's just a really positive reflection on the hard work that you've done. So it's really, this is complicated, and you've made it seem simple, and I think you have brought down a lot of barriers, and that was not an easy thing to do. So I second that. My two questions are this. How well used are those library office hours? You know, and it sounds like when they get there, the process is wonderful. How well used is that? And I wonder if in the calls in to 311 and reaching out to your office, you have identified, are there any barriers to accessing this online situation? And is there any need to, if there are, is there any need for us to kind of think about how to help some people who may have some trouble with the online, like get to the library or get to someone who can assist them?
I will look into that number. I did not get that information. I was out of the office the last few days, but I will verify with the library if they can give me the estimated numbers. I know the first week, which was last week, we had, at least in the first couple, the 2 days, we had over 20 people plus. So we did see a good number. I don't know those numbers are this week, so I will verify that. That's a good question. As to the barrier question, I think having the office hours did eliminate some of that concern that we were hearing from the community meetings. So when we were doing the informational sessions, those questions were asked up front, and that's how, and we responded by, we need to create office hours so people can access some support. So in doing that, I think that helped reduce some of those concerns. I've had people come to my office. I mean, if someone calls me up and they're like, I need help, I'm like, just come on over.
Yeah.
You know, so sometimes
wonderful.
you just have to just make the space to do it. So I haven't seen the number of 311 coming to me. I don't know if they've come to you as much, but it seemed to be more of questions about documentation and question about verification than it is about access to the online application.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Did you have a
I'm going to
second
jump
question?
in and
Oh, no, those were my two questions.
I just wanted to add that also the feedback that I've had from the community has been with great surprise how low the barriers are and how little documentation there is and how appreciative they have been of the process and the resources. And that really is, as Bonnie and Claire have said, like to your credit in the 4 info sessions, 1 being virtual and having the staff hours available. So I just want to like be on record as saying I've had nothing but positive feedback about the process and the how easy the documentations are. Most of them have had access to the documentations in their own homes and not had to go through that extra step. So that's the feedback that I've had.
Yeah.
Kimberly, we did have one person, Tashik, that had an issue with uploading a file that was too large.
Yep.
Were we able to increase the capacity online, or was that just a one-off issue?
That was a one-off.
Okay.
She was able to upload her file. I think she probably
Downsized it?
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. So thank you all very much. Kimberly, are we ready to talk a little bit about moving on to item number
The meat.
number 2? And so
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
I had an opportunity to meet with our staff last week, and we walked through, you know, not only the prioritizing our ancestors, and then followed by direct descendants, and then tier number 3, but it was to set an aggressive timeline to make sure that we're identifying the individuals before the end of the year. So if you're on page 9, item number 3, we know that November 5th is the last day to submit the applications. And then as part of the process, our committee approves all the names and applicants that are coming in. So our staff will qualify, make sure all the applications are filled out, and all the applications that are completely filled out correctly then will come to our committee for approval, and then all those names will have to go to our city council, followed by city council's approval for the funds. So the thought process is we're going to take everyone from this initiative, all of the names are assigned numbers as the applications come in. We'll talk a little bit about a random process to put them in line. And then once you have the total number of applicants, we'll multiply that by we'll just use 25,000. Then we'll have what I would call a budget for this first initiative, if that makes sense. So the dates that we're looking at, 5th, 11, we'll have a list that's going to be provided by our staff.
Chair, can I just say that is Veterans Day? I don't know that we would be meeting.
See, thank you very much. I was trying to pull up my calendar. I just got online. Can everyone just pull up their calendars real quick?
Yes.
Thank you so much. Let me pull up the calendar. It's a good call out.
Is
Is that a holiday?
It's not. It's not a city holiday.
Yeah, it's not a city
It's
holiday.
not a city,
No.
it's a
No.
national holiday.
It's a national
It's a
recognition, but it's not a city. It's not a
Okay.
city holiday. So
Yeah,
All right.
I was aware it was Veterans Day and took that into
I just didn't
consideration.
know
Yeah.
if we were going to be doing business on Veterans Day.
Yeah. Do you have any particular conflict?
No, I just, know that that's a very important day to
Absolutely.
many citizens
Absolutely.
that I
Do
would
we
not
have,
want that to
Kimberly,
be.
can you check, just anyone pull up our
a
city
different
calendar to see if
priority.
there's.
we typically do something at one
It's
of the
usually
parks.
through the EFW in the morning, and then that's the only recognition that's happening that day. Let me make sure I know the date itself.
Yeah, there's usually breakfasts that day, and, there's a very active veterans group. I know in the African-American community.
VFW.
The VFW.
Yeah, I know, there's nothing,
I
it's mostly
haven't-
outside, it's in the community, not the city-sponsored events, so.
Yeah.
Is there anyone on the committee or any concerns? I want to be respectful.
I'm able to do both.
Okay. Anyone else? Mr. Sutton? Thank you, sir.
I will not be here that day. I will not be here that day. I'm
Okay.
unable to meet that day.
So could we move it to a time in the mid-afternoon, if that's possible?
I think we can. Hold on one
I'm just
second.
asking just because I know
Yeah,
a lot
no.
of a lot of the festivities happen in the morning.
Correct.
It's because I mean this is it would be nice to have.
We want
The
everyone.
week after, the meeting. No, I just can't make it that day. I'm sorry.
You're out that whole day.
Yeah, I
Okay.
am not able to make it, but you guys can go on without me.
Okay.
You sure? Is there anyone else that has a conflict before we entertain moving dates?
I don't have a scheduling conflict now.
Okay.
I just wonder if a committee member is there an inappropriate perception about doing that work on that day? Is that a concern?
That was my concern.
I would argue on the other side of that we do it for the veterans and continue the work and not interrupt it because it is very important.
A time.
And so if we are able to do both and we have a quorum with enough members that are able to honor the veterans, I think maybe if Alderman Braithwaite is able to push his schedule up to do a later meeting, if that's helpful. But there's, many hours in the day that we can acknowledge and honor the veterans and also do the work of reparations.
Yeah.
Is Thursday the only day we can do it? Could we do it on the Wednesday?
I get a little bit nervous because we have staff who everyone here has a committee around commitment around the table. And so I've intentionally blocked off like the
Thursdays.
Thursday mornings. So if
Question for you is
Yeah.
the Friday.
It's hard for me.
Okay. All right, never mind then.
I say you guys can do it without me.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so the 11th then will be the meeting to approve the applications. I think it's going to be a very short and efficient meeting. To be clear to the committee members, also anyone in the community. So we will not know the identity of they will just be numbers.
Right.
That's what we're going to see, application numbers. And we'll leave it at that. So then, please,
So, sorry, before we move on, so what is the time then of the meeting on the 11th?
our same
then?
time.
Our
9
same
to 10.
time, okay.
This is just a
fine.
regular committee
Okay.
meeting.
Okay.
All right. The next date would be November 22nd, where the same list that we approve from this committee will go before City Council. Again, numbers that are assigned to applications. I think you had asked for, it's at some point, the commissioners to be present at one of our meetings. I think either the 11th is a short agenda, or I would also suggest City Council for consideration November 22nd.
Yeah, whichever, if they're here, that would have presented an opportunity for the committee to ask any questions.
Sure.
I guess that could happen as well at council. I was thinking committee, but maybe council is better.
But put it in your,
Can I get some clarity of what you're speaking to? I'm
So-
sorry if I'm missing something.
Sure. NARC that certified our work, the National African American Reparations Commission certified our work some time ago, and they reached out wanting to just check in and make themselves available to the new committee, because they haven't met the new committee yet, and be available to answer any questions of the committee and also give feedback on the work that we've been doing.
Okay.
all right.
So point of order, so we are not then meeting on November 4th? Because the 5th is the day, the 4th is the first Thursday of the month, and we typically meet on the the
Correct.
first Thursday. So we are not meeting on the first Thursday, we're going to meet on the 11th instead.
If we don't have any agenda items, I mean, we have one part of the discussion that I just want to talk about in terms of support for the seniors, so then
Okay.
we can discuss it and then decide if we would like to have that conversation on that 4th.
Okay.
Fair enough? All right. So the city council meeting on the 22nd is when the names will be approved. November 30th is a big day, because that's when we will do the selection process. And so one of the ideas that Kimberly and I discussed, and I'd like to open up to the committee for feedback, is each applicant is going to have a number that is assigned to them, right? And if we would like to do something that has a little pageantry to it, we can put the numbers, rather than doing a computer, put something similar to a lottery or bingo system. I thought about our foster seniors who enjoy playing bingo on a monthly basis. We can assign each ball an applicant number, spin it, and then there are a couple of different products that are online, and then the first 16 numbers within that order would be our first 16 people that we would choose within the ancestry. So basically, for each category, we would have a different ball, and we would have a line. So at the end of the process, we will have a number for ancestry, descendants, and then those that file under the, I want to make sure I read it, so I'm not saying, those who experienced the housing discrimination due to the policies during 1969. We would then have those applications on file in order, and then we would be able to budget for those as well. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Questions, comments?
Is there a second option, other than a lottery in a traditional sense? I know we had talked about, there are other programs that have randomly selected awards. is this what we landed on, a lottery?
It's a discussion.
Okay.
I mean, have we looked at any other types?
It's a discussion.
So
We're opening it up now.
Yeah, there's,
Bringing it up.
yeah, we're just
Our
talking
first talk
about it.
We had a cash benefit program that is still ongoing. Residents in town are still receiving unrestricted $300 cash benefits through a partnership with FII and the Economic Security Fund, and they had a random selection process, and we last left in discussion about using whatever that software is, and I wonder if we had explored that anymore.
So we have looked at software, not just what they use, because what the product that they used was something that they was customized to their system. But what I've been looking at has been other products that have been randomization, and it's just the feedback from the communities. They wanted a transparent process, and I don't know they felt that the computer process was transparent enough.
Right.
So that's the reason why I kind of went back to the chair and said, we need to think through a little bit more, because I can do this easily. It's much easier and more efficient for me to go in and just plug in all those numbers into a system and then have them generate them electronically. It was just the community feedback that I was getting has been, well, how do I know that this wasn't done? How would I know that the computer actually did generate a number that was random? So that's when we came back to, well, do we want to make it more of a visible process?
That everyone can see. No confusion.
I think that's very important,
Yep.
that it's a visible process. It's very transparent.
But how we do it, I think, is up to the committee to help, because I don't know.
Yeah, but I don't think we have enough information really to make a
So-
decision to know what to
It
do
was-
yet.
today was-
You know,
it
so
was
this is just an
all
opening
about it.
conversation
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
It's just there's a date that we just have to have something
True.
selected by
True.
a date time. I'm open. I don't know. I really don't know how to do this other than the typical.
Well, that might be why we have to have a meeting on November 4th.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Well, I think if we could have more like robust discussion about it now, so we don't get into November 4th and then we are off track on selection. So if you've been hearing feedback that there's suspicion about a computerized randomization process, then this sort of visual lottery makes more sense. Just the visual of a lottery, I don't love, but I guess there's no other way around it to have it. I would love to hear Mr. Sutton's feedback about,
And then I want to recognize Bobby.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And then Mrs.
do you have any, just would love to hear your feedback about it.
My main concern is I don't want this to be a gambling perception.
Right,
That there are some people who we can't prioritize, but we as community members, I feel it's sort of like not giving us the greatest input that we should have in selecting, than have a random selection. That's my only concern.
Well, we have to have random, is the question is how.
But not by
random.
lottery.
No, but
So if I can,
But I
maybe
think
lottery,
the
yeah,
word lottery is,
can
I
we-
think, is misconstrued because it's not a
Yeah,
lottery.
it's not a lottery.
It's just we're picking out.
Names is
the-
similar to
Yeah.
drawing bingo. So
If we
it's
can
the
stop saying
names.
lottery and bingo.
Yeah, okay, names are, okay.
Right.
So, all right.
Can I just ask with that,
Right.
Committee Member Simmons, from what I'm hearing and perhaps sharing is, although it's a balance, I hear what you're saying about they can see it and so forth, but it may leave some impression that we haven't taken the gravitas of the situation as seriously if we're pulling something out of that. Is that what you're saying? Because I'm
Well,
kind of
not-
hearing that.
Not so much that.
I hear you
The
on
lottery
that,
and
I
bingo.
think.
Like
Yeah.
if we, if we can separate it from that and just
Yeah.
be clear on language, because it is so significant.
Right.
And then there's also these, there are historic harms in our community as it relates to like gambling and lottery and the numbers and all that. And so, just having sensitivity and modeling everything that we do in this work. And I'm hearing you in a visual so that it is clearly random and that there's no question about suspicion of favor or prioritizing who is awarded. I think it's a good idea. Just, if we just make sure that we are not calling it a lottery, and
Or a
equating
bingo.
it to bingo. And finding out, maybe there is a model that is visual that looks less like a lottery, and,
If we just maybe need to have a little time to think about that, yeah.
That's, yeah, this is a
yeah,
discussion.
To respond to that,
Yeah.
yeah.
So November 30th, that gives us over little less than 60 days. You wanted to say something before I make my response?
Yeah, I just wanted to throw my support for a random selection process that's visible. It's what in political elections they use it all the time to determine to make random selection.
Order of.
Yeah, and it's done. It's visible. I don't know if it's balls. I think it's like little tabs that they may put in a box or a bowl or something, and they literally shake it up and they're pulling something out of it.
Yeah.
And everybody, it's in a similar setting as this, and everybody can see it. And I think as long as we just call it, as you said, a random selection process instead of a lottery, we'll be fine.
Absolutely.
I also talked to residents, both during the campaign and after, and reparations obviously was a hot topic during the campaign. So this came up as far as how we were going to select the awardees, and I floated random selection even then to dozens of people I talked to about reparations, maybe more, and everybody seemed okay with that. And I ran that by at least 50 people at the doors that I can recall, saying, hey, we're going to make it a random selection process to make sure that there's no favoritism. And the only other way to do it is if there's an objective way to prioritize the ancestors even further, we could look into that, but I think that could complicate things too. Right, so, do we take the older of the ancestors first and then
We
the
don't
younger of
ask
the
their age,
ancestors?
so we don't ask their age, so.
Oh, you don't ask the age? Okay, yeah, so, but that would be the only other option, and I think that may further confuse things too.
I want to just jump in just for a point of clarification. There has always been a decision of the prior committee that it's going to be random. So it was never any question about it being a random process. It's just what random process we select. And with your political background, maybe you could give some recommendations on like visual processes that you've seen that we could consider, and come back to us in a week for us to like at least have something to discuss at our next meeting and make a decision so that we can move forward.
Yeah, I mean, I can look into it. The only thing I think about is whether it's balls or tabs or whatever it is, does the initial position of the tab or ball,
Matter.
advantage someone over another? I don't know, so I can look into that and just see what's out there.
And then Kimberly and Tashik, did you all already look into actual systems like this that?
We went on.
Well, I have.
Visuals?
We just went on, and just so, here are the things that, to make it clear to the committee, we're having a discussion to the residents that are here. Here are the things that I would think that we would want to avoid. Number one, electronic systems where it's not clear, where there could, I'm sure you've all done them in different settings to where we could have a computer glitch, where something, I've experienced those things where the computer is just running slow, we don't have access to. We don't want to do any of that when we have people in front of us. The second thing is, I would like to make sure that whatever the system is, no one has to touch it, right? So no one is putting their hand and pulling a piece of paper and then having someone in the back of the room because of whatever personal reasons. I mean, we've all heard these things throughout it. So the random process is, once you label and assign the number to something, whatever device we choose, it's a simple spin, press the button, release something, and then the numbers are able to come out where everyone can see it is completely hands off, right?
That makes sense.
So can you?
And so that's the idea of
And
what
what
we had
accomplishes
discussed. Now, the question is, based on, and please, after this discussion, my assumption is you're going to have conversations with the people that your community, you're associated with, all around the table, and everyone else here. And we have over 60 days to come up with something that makes sense, that Go ahead, Mr. Sutton.
Yeah, since we're prioritizing the ancestor category for the first distribution, should there just be 29 names or whoever the ancestries are, rather than having a tower of 107?
So we would do it for each category.
And it'll be, so also not to be misleading, because the odds are really good right now for the ancestors. The application is still open until November 5th. And I think, and please correct me, Chair and Kimberly and Tashik, if I'm wrong, that that's the intent, that the ancestors are the only ones in this initial randomization selection process for this particular.
Well, no, I think we should do them all. So that way everyone's done. Because here's what's going to happen. You, again, I think a little bit, so can I just go back a little bit with the air popping balls and no touching? You all don't know who these individuals are because because they all have unique ID numbers. The only individuals that know are me and Tashik, because we have to vet them. And we have to make sure we have a document that lines up the person with the number. So even if you all were picking something out of randomly out of a box or a cup or whatever, you will never know who that individual is until I provide you with the list of names. So I shouldn't touch any of this because I know who they are. But if you all even touch it, it's not as if you are biasing the process, because you really are coming into it in a blind process already without knowing who the individuals are you're selecting. So I just want to be mindful of that, is that you're not going to get the names. And this is why I would recommend doing it all at once. Because then that way we can provide you all with everyone with who's on this list, who are the individuals that have been selected and what order they're in. And then that's the list that if we're able to in the future to expand to continue to pay for this program, we just continue going through that list. And all the randomization part of it has been completed. And now now the community knows who is getting the funds, because right now it would be blind up until that point of when I'm able to provide you with the list of names.
I just point of clarification. My understanding, and I guess I'm not remembering, is that the ancestors were the priority. And so that this first 16 awards were going to ancestors. That does not seem possible if you put all of the names into the choice.
No. You put them into buckets. So ancestors is one randomization process of bucket, and you have everyone from 1 to 50, whoever is in every person that's in that bucket is going to be ranked or put into the order that they're selected. Then you're doing it for next group, which would be the direct descendants. They're in their own separate bucket that they're going through 1 through 50 to put them in the order that they're selected. And then the final group. The only reason why is because then we're no longer selecting people. We're done with that. We're now in the process of how are we going to distribute funds beyond the 16 as money comes available. So people will know, okay, I'm on the list and I see that this program is being funded for another 16 folks. Okay, I know I'm going to be up on that list. I can get myself prepared because I know where I'm at rank-wise. I would just make that recommendation if that's not what the committee wants to move forward with.
That's not clarification.
That's what we discussed.
That's not clear.
No, so thank you for that, that it's not all applicants in one randomization. So it's still prioritizing the ancestors because they're the only ones that are gonna be selected in this first round. And they are separately randomized. It's just separating those three tiers, and that's such an important clarification point.
Can I say, so that part makes sense to me. My question is, are they in line for this exact program, for the restorative housing program? Are they next up in any future program that we create, or is it just for this program? And I say that because some people may have not applied because they said, hey, for me, this particular program isn't reparative, but I'm looking out for the next one, whether it's direct cash benefits, whether it's whatever may come up. So is this group prioritized for every future program or just restorative housing?
I can only speak to restorative.
I
want to remind people that this is for this program. This selection process is this program. Once this committee create another program in the future, it's going to have its own set of guidelines and application process. So anyone who is interested in the program should apply, and if they're selected, that does not preclude them from having access to another program if they also qualify for that program.
Wow.
What it does allow us to do, though, as Chair mentioned, once we've made this, we're going to City Council with a full budget saying, here's how many individuals actually qualify for the program. We need to make sure funding is available. But we also know that funding is not going to be readily available because we only have one dispensary. And so with that, right now,
Right.
but what that does allow for us is to prepare and plan. But we're going to make sure we exhaust ancestors first. They're going to be prioritized regardless if they're the first 16 or the next 16. Until that list is exhausted, you don't go to the next group.
So the expectation of council then is that we continue to approve funds for the restorative housing program until every applicant receives a benefit.
That's the goal.
Okay. And we should make that clear, you know, just to council, like that's the, yeah, I like that. That makes sense. I just wanted to clarify, okay.
This is good.
And then also, if there are any, and there probably won't be, because it seems like it's, there's not as many barriers in terms of what you need to submit, but if there are any deficiencies, someone didn't turn in something properly, will they have an opportunity to address that deficiency? You know, or will they be, you know, ruled out automatically?
No, we've been addressing those as they become along. Like I said earlier, as we are perusing the information, we're able to catch things early.
Right then and there, okay.
And then we just send a copy, you know. Now, there's going to be some gray area ones, which I'm already seeing a couple of gray area ones where there's some, unfortunately, there's just not the appropriate documentation because they are not able to locate, but you are able to discern that there was definitely a lineage. It's just, you know, the documentation is unclear. So there will be a couple grays that I'll have to come back to the committee to say, how do you want us to proceed with these? But I would like for that to happen. I'd rather put them in the randomization and us fix that issue. And then if we have to pull them for later, we can pull them for later, but at least they are in the process. I would hate to deny people if there's an opportunity for us to fix the issue or at least get the clarification that you all need.
That's how I feel.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? All right. So if you recall, we had talked about, you know, looking at other economic development models just as we built it out. There are so many details as we get closer to this that I just want to make sure that we slow down and we're listening to not only all the members of the committee as we make every single step, because I hate surprises and I want to make sure that you all don't have any surprises or anyone in the public, and that we're being really detailed as we execute this, because there are a lot of people watching, and we all take it very serious. So if there aren't any other questions, if everyone is clear and comfortable with the timeline, then we will execute this, right? These will be the dates, and then they will lead up to the December 1st and 6th notification of applicants, and that will be done by mail. One of the other issues that came up during a conversation with Kimberly, and I had an opportunity to speak briefly with Bonnie, is, you know, thinking through this, and Mr. Sutton, I really should have given you a call, so my apologies if I'm putting you on the spot to ask a question. So we're going to have seniors that will have an option of first-time home buyer, home repair, or paying down their mortgages. And then throughout, you know, my experience, we have run into seniors who have found themselves in very difficult financial situations, whether it's a reverse mortgage, a variable mortgage, or banks that are predatory. And so we need to be mindful of those situations, that some banks are not going to take a lump sum, $25,000, and then on the back end self-refi someone's mortgage to reflect that, lower the payments. So, you know, one of the conversations that we had currently with our organization that's going to be bringing the money to the table is what resources are there to make sure that that $25,000, if they choose to go with with paying down the mortgage, that someone's making sure that they're working with the bank. Does that make sense? And then the other issue that that came up as a concern is when you're looking at doing home repairs, anyone who owns a home, rents a home, we don't know what that person is dealing with at home. So we have a very basic handyman program that works here in town. And some of the feedback that I'm just using that as an example, not making a necessary comparison, is you can go in to fix a pipe and then you can find mold. You can go in and fix a pipe and all of a sudden, you never know what you're going to uncover when you do a home project. And we just want to be mindful that the seniors who will be awarded have some type of supervision or management. These are just my generic words. But someone who's going to make sure that the contractor that's been approved is licensed, has a good reputation for work. In the worst case scenario, that you don't have a family member or someone taking advantage. And then making sure that whatever the project is meant for, that you're taking into considerations. I think the worst thing that could happen is money is taken and job's not complete, or a job is half done. I mean, that's basically it. And I was hoping to get a little bit of feedback based on your personal experiences, and is this something that we need to take into consideration when awarding? I think the worst thing that could happen is that somebody has this wonderful opportunity and that they don't get the full value of it. I'd like to open that up for discussion now.
I'll jump in. We have the date for the community wealth date. I believe it is December 6th or 4th. Vanessa, is it December? The 4th, the first Saturday of December, hosted by the Dearborn Realtors. It is the local chapter of NARAB, which is a national black real estate professional organization. And one of their workshops is going to be on just that, like walking residents, seniors, with a special focus on a safe, responsible, and successful rehab project, how to identify a contractor, how to work with one, the best types of products for those that may not be using this reparations program, but maybe using some other type of rehab loan, making sure they work with our city staff here to learn about our own project programs that we have at the city, and maybe even layer on programs. So that's one of the workshops that they're looking to put together that would help our seniors as well as all other residents looking to do a rehab. And they're a black organization that have a history. They were founded in needing to provide real estate services to black residents that were excluded from the real estate industry, like historically. And they were among the first institutions to come and support the reparations work that we're doing here, coming to share expert comment at the Equity and Empowerment Commission meetings in 2019, and supporting the work through 2020 and even today.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. I was
Carlos.
just going to quickly ask, will that meeting, excuse me, be recorded? Because I'm looking at the date, and then some of the people may become aware afterwards.
That's a Monday.
Because that's through the 1st through the 6th that they're getting notification. Would that be recorded so that they could, come back, or even, when you get a lot of information like that, and then maybe when you get underway, think, oh, what do they say?
That's a great idea, Claire, because we didn't record the last one, and there were so many missed opportunities to get access to that. And then also thinking about COVID, some that still aren't comfortable coming in person.
Definitely.
So we'll reach out to them, and we'll introduce a committee to this group so that all of your questions can go to them, so we don't miss anything. But ask them to record it and house it somewhere that the community has access to it as a resource.
And that date, December 6th, is a Monday.
So that's the wrong date then.
Okay.
It's the
It's the
4th.
4th.
It's the
Okay,
Saturday.
that, thank you, thank you.
Then maybe we could put a link to that on our reparations page at the appropriate time, you know, once it's recorded. Yeah.
Sir.
I just wanted,
Carlos, I thought
Oh,
Carlos.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm
I
sorry.
think
I'm
we're
sorry.
going to try to get together a list of reputable contractors. Not that we can't tell people who to choose.
Right.
But I think we have one very good advantage. We have had enough contractors in this town to know basically who's reliable, who's bonded, and that we can trust. Because I'm like you, I don't want anyone to be ripped off as a result of this. So secondly, if we could still, after the people have been chosen and they've decided exactly how they want to utilize the funds, then I think we should have available to them a list of contractors, because this contractor, one, will have to get the building program. Two, we have to be sure that the work is done that meets not only city standards, but the people who are getting any kind of restoration work done is appropriate. And when a house is 100 years old, I tell you, you don't know what's happening until you get in there.
Right.
And the cost escalates almost to the point where it's probably just best to leave it alone. But I'm concerned that one, I'm like you, I don't like surprises. So if we could have a list of contractors, and once we've identified the kinds of help that they need, then we could have readily available a list of people that we could recommend. Not telling them this is your only option, but just a list of people that we could recommend.
And
There
before
is
we
a-
hear any other comments, that conversation's come up. It's a conversation I've had with community members Simmons, and it's a conversation that we've had with our staff.
that's what I was going to speak.
You already,
'Cause I'm
you
actually-
already know where.
So I'm actually organizing with contractors, Todd Smith, who I know you know. So Robin brought up this in an email not too long ago, and I thought it was going to be it was a great idea. I think initially it was, can we send something out through email to our listserv saying, hey, we're looking for contractors. And so I think we should still do that. In addition, I'm organizing with Todd Smith, who's a local contractor, to do an event where we can turn out contractors to get more information, not only about how they can participate in this program, but we have a bunch of different programs from CDBG, home rehab programs, to at some point in implementing our climate action and resiliency, we're going to have to do a lot of home renovations to make homes less, energy intensive. So just creating an event for our local contractors to learn about all the different ways they can, support our efforts. And so we're trying to get that done, by the end of this month to support this work, but all the work that we're doing.
I want to jump in real quick, just so we don't have so many redundant efforts. The event, the Community Wealth Day, also includes a component like that. So can I put you in touch with them, and you and Todd and Dearborn Realtors all work together on that? Because there is a very robust community resource guide that's not a guide of the committee, but it is a community resource guide, and it's currently being vetted by the North Shore chapter Deltas to contact each one on the list, see who's licensed, insured, what trades they do, and all that will be presented at least by this Community Wealth Day. But I think what you're doing is perfect, and so it's
12/4.
December 4th, but there's going to be a pre-meeting for the contractors, the realtors, and everything to get together. So please let me put you in touch with Vanessa and the Dearborn Realtors, and then you all put that together as one really important event. Okay.
So, and just for the residents that are listening in, this has been something that Ms. Simmons has been working on, community member Simmons, when she was an alderman. It's been done before. Wonderful response from our community and a whole lot of information. It was something that we were reminded of during the information session, that just because you don't fit in, I shouldn't say fit into, but this moves at the same pace with our housing effort. So we realize that the funds are limited, as they always are with with most initiatives, but the information is the real value. So I want to ask one question in terms of Kimberly, we discussed, is this something, so there was an initiative with NSP2, I think maybe 10 years ago, where we had an approved list of contractors, but that was through like federal dollars. So now we're talking local municipal dollars. Can we vet a list like that through the city of Evanston? And the other thing that we had discussed was doing it through local community efforts. So that's the question that I know we went back and forth on. And as we're planning this, what are your thoughts on that? Is that something that can be blessed by the city of Evanston, or should we continue to do it as a community?
Well, I think having it as a community effort allows it to breathe somewhere that's not always connected to the city. But what I can do for Committee Member Simmons is make sure I give you the appropriate guidelines or information as to what a contractor needs to be able to do the work within the city, so that
I have all that. I mean, we already got the NSP list from Sarah. The list is very dated. Many of the
NSP's list.
And I also have the requirements to be a GC, all that. So there's been a lot of work put into this. That's why I'm suggesting maybe we work with one another so that we're not
I agree.
reproducing efforts, and that we can serve the city united.
Then I think everything has been handled. I wouldn't
Yeah.
see purpose for us to get involved at this juncture.
The community can own this. So I'm going to get Councilmember Burns in touch with the Dearborn and Vanessa, and I think like much of reparation work needs to be owned by the community. And this is one piece that we can begin to practice solidarity economics and be mindful about where our dollars are going and work towards our dollar in the Black community, you know, staying here more than 6 hours as it does right now today. So I look forward to getting these different groups together and the community showing the city how we can prioritize our wealth and what our intentions are.
Well said.
I was gonna say, I saw the city's role really is just helping to promote it. You know, the listserv, maybe even postcarding potentially, but just helping, once we put together a community event, the city can help just get the word out, you know, to people.
Is there a location that's?
Right now, the Fleetwood is not available because it's FAM season, so there's not a Saturday in the winter. So Faith Temple Church has offered to have their church event. They have classrooms, a gymnasium, a Geneva Hall, and this event also includes licensed childcare, and they have a childcare facility in their basement. So as of now, that is the location, but Councilmember Burns, if you have other suggestions, then, okay.
Can I just go back to the origin of this conversation and being respectful of our elders and ancestors? The amount of scam and fraud played upon our older adults is legendary.
Yeah.
And I think that we need to be very proactive in looking at this prior to the funds being distributed. And knowing that, you know, our older adults can make great decisions, but there are always those people lurking
And
to take
sometimes family
advantage.
members.
And family members.
As we have seen.
So I think whatever effort we can do to decrease that opportunity is very important.
Yeah, I would agree.
I think one thing, and that's such a good point, you know, just thinking about, that's why I've been so aggressive in timeline, but the announcements or the awards will come, and then folks have to mobilize how they're going to use it. So this will be early December. By then, the education has been out there, and then there'll be opportunity for them, to, you know, to be informed. There's also Black attorneys on this list as well in the community. I think there's only one right now actually that specializes in real estate. But Claire, in your professional network, if you know of any other,
Yeah, I can try to.
Mobilize.
Yeah, I can try to
additional
mobilize,
things.
and it's, because I think what we're really trying to, what we're really expressing is avoiding financial exploitation.
Yes, yes.
And putting in place some position of, before we get to the advocacy of attorneys, we'd like to try to avoid those situations to begin with. There's also always a fine line, though, to walk between respecting people's individual decisions and so forth, and not making, there've already been, as our committee's aware, many comments about releasing funds in a kind of a, in a way that people want more autonomy, or people, some of the criticisms that have been expressed are autonomy. So which we have to be respectful of people's dignity and so forth, but put those guide rails, those guardrails in place. So it's a tricky tightrope to walk, but it's something that I think enough people have given attention to with some thought. I don't want to just blurt out some responses, but taking a minute to think about it, I think we can come up with something, and I think we can, I would imagine we could get some advocacy in place.
I want to be mindful
Or some
of the
assistance
time
in place,
of
I should
just,
say.
these are very important topics, and it's a lot deeper than we can get into right now. So I am fine with just making sure that we capture all of everyone's thoughts and opinions on this before we move forward. But it is 10 o'clock, and I'm hoping that everybody has time on their schedules that we can maybe give it another 10 minutes before we wrap up. Fair enough?
Yes.
Okay, good. So we have the date of December 4th for the community education that's going to currently Fleetwood.
No,
Do we-
first,
I'm sorry, my apologies. I wrote down Fleetwood, Faith Temple. And do we have a time?
Vanessa McCoy is our Realtor extraordinaire in town.
8 to 3.
Eight
Well, I'm
to-
sorry, that's my setup time. 8:30 registration will begin. And the first general session will begin at 9.
Okay, thank you. So 8:30 gathering.
And there'll be, and this, I guess Vanessa could report when it's all set up, but there's going to
Okay.
be childcare and
Childcare.
food, and no cost.
And where is registration available?
Right, I was just going to ask that question.
Is it online registration? or-
We didn't talk about it, if there's pre-registration yet.
Okay.
Definitely on site.
I can't remember if we did
It's
on,
registration online.
yeah, because I was getting reports on how many we were expecting. So there's an online, I think it might even be through Eventbrite, and then there's online registration, in-person registration as
Yes.
well.
Is that something we could link to with our reparations page?
Yeah, so I guess it might even have to go to legal, I don't know, because it's a community event. I think I think the city can
Right.
promote it as a community event, but I don't see why the city couldn't
Right.
promote it as they promote other important community events. But that's up to the chair, staff, Nick, everything else.
No, we've done it
We've
for
done it
previous
before.
events.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's nothing
Bike the
different.
ridge,
Oh, yeah.
walk a mile in her shoes,
What
so we can,
Yeah, what I would recommend if we're gonna have the November 4th meeting, that we have, maybe that be the meeting where we can
yes.
have,
Hash out some of
Ms. McCoy talk about the program, and then also invite the National Reparations Committee to come and speak as well, maybe.
I think that's a good idea.
Because then that way you'll be present to
Yep.
be there, if that's okay with you.
I'm sorry.
The November 4th committee meeting,
Mhm.
we can have the National Committee come,
Okay.
and then also we can have
Yeah.
Community Wealth Day, so we can like
Announcements.
kind of, then that give you a month,
Yep.
kind of ahead of schedule, kind of getting that word out.
Awesome.
Okay. So we have NARC, the process. That gives us 30 days just to bring in some ideas. And then we also have the community event.
Will the resource guide be vetted by then, do you think?
Yeah, it's actually, this completion date is this month, so it'll be done. And I'm actually going to send it so that the committee can see all the work that's happening, and we don't I'm going to send a draft form to the committee, just so you
Perfect.
can see that.
All right.
Well, if it's ready, I can add that to the, if you think that's too big of an agenda.
No, it's not, it's really just something to share, so I think,
Yeah.
The guide,
and that
resource
way it's
guide,
in the
right.
packet and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah. I'm going to encourage everyone to show up on time, and then we'll get started. We can have the, and is it NARC, only NARC and Cobra?
NARC, and Cobra is represented on NARC.
Okay. And then talk a little bit about the process, the randomization process. We should have some examples of what we can use, right? And I'm encouraging everyone to continue to do the wonderful outreach that you have been doing, and then you'll come back with a clear mind on what we need to do to move forward, and then we'll also discuss the community event. All right. That concludes our agenda. We don't have any other items before us to discuss. Any last minute comments? If not, then we'll entertain a motion to adjourn. And I just want to thank you all so much, the residents who continue to come out to support the efforts, for being here this morning. Seeing no comments, is there a motion to adjourn? It's been properly moved. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
The meeting is adjourned. Thank you all very much for your presence.